Yes, we did it. Hey, wait, where am I? There we go. Mirror image. Whoever used to live here was a big believer in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I think. I put my speakers up there. Hey, tribes and classes. Let's get after it. Tribes, there's 4 of them. You could say that there's 5, but there's not. That'll become apparent. Gurun isn't a tribe. It's an idea. It's what mothers say to their kids. Oh, be careful of the Gurun. You know, don't get lost in the forest. You'll either if you get lost in the forest in Gyris, there's only 2 things that the world thinks happens. The dark got you, the Ochachuri fucked you up, or you become a Gurun. And a Gurun is someone who has a protection of a dua tree somewhere out in the dark forest, but they can never leave. You know? Because let's just say you find your dua tree as part of the Diwali. You write a passage, you found your dua tree, and you're like, fuck yeah, cool, I'm going to get back to my particular place, you know, Duara, Sfal, Motun, Aku. You're trying to get back, you don't make it. You're not going to make it through the night. The only thing you can do is maybe plant your dua down. Hopefully it grows a little bit. You can have the protection of the dua from the night, from the dark. So these Gurun, it's like a way. It's like, oh, you don't want to become the Gurun. You better fucking get back. You get eaten or you're going to be Gurun, you know? So the Gurun are like, you know, in the eyes of the parents and how they like describe them, like, oh, you know, their hair's like, and they're green and they're all these monstrous things. But as we find in the script, that's not the case, at least not for the Gurun that we find in film 1. Anyway, the 4 major ones that you guys want to know about are the Akukani. Akukani are from Aku. Now, Aku is northeast of Mount Kira, one of the great mountains of Gyris. There are 4 great mountains of Gyris. There's many fucking sick mountains and many great mountains, but great as in like, you know, probably like the name of a thing, a category of mountain. There are only 4 that we know. So on one side you have the Akukani of Aku, and then on the other side you have Duara. Duara is where our protagonists are from, or our main protagonist. Everything around here is like connected in at least in certain ways by river forks, you know, especially coming off these big mountains. You have these massive carves in the sides of the earth or of Gyris that creates a huge web of amazing river systems. Now, to the west we have Motun. Now, Motun still is up on the Boerlands. Now, remember the Boerlands are like 1,500 minimum above sea level. So it's like on this plateau. Yeah, it's this plateau that's way above a bunch of the rest of Gyris, but it's jungle-like, massive rainfall for the most part, and these river systems. So a bunch of those river systems end up on the west side, or the ones that end up on the west side end up in this huge, like what seems like a sea, and that sea acts. You know, it has its own beaches, and the beaches are where the Motun tend to live, and they fish from the seas there. At the very edge of that, further to the west, that drops off onto a fucking epic kind of streaming waterfall all the way down that sort of 1,500 meters down into the actual sea. And there's some cool shit that's probably going to happen down there, I would say. So that's Motun, Akukani, and Duara. Duara, as I said, is kind of, you know, we've got Motun, we've got Aku, and we've got Duara. Duara is the closest to the border of Morandu, and the dominion of Alavad and the Mingieri, or the Gyeri kin. And the closest contact, really, even from the most eastern lands of Porth. So they're the closest to civilization, if we want to call modern Gu and Porth civilization. Porth being the place where the Dawa mostly come from, or their capital, their racial capital, Morandu being the Mingieri racial capital. And then Sval, we have Sval. So Sval is a smaller population living in the north, the north, and in the cold and in the snow and the ice. They are a hard people, a lot of makers, not as much warring for them, but building. They are the best they're the best makers within the story. So that's why they have that hammer axe. That's not why they have the hammer axe. That's why the Burasi, which is one of our tribes, has the hammer axe, and there's a lot of Sval Burasi. So that brings us to the classes. The classes are the Burasi, which is that hammer axe. These guys are awesome at making shit. So when the game comes along, these guys will be more proficient at doing that stuff. In PNG, I love, and this is in a lot of places, where they don't have a ton. And instead of the commodification of fucking absolutely everything, you buy a table from this shop or whatever. It's like you make that shit. You cut down the tree and you make the thing. So many, you learn to make your own. You get to a certain age, and then you go and you got your little plot of land, and you make your thing. And then you ask someone to marry you, That shit's awesome. But then you just be like going to some waterfall somewhere, and someone would have, made a seat out of trunks and shit. It's just cool. So I have a lot of those like assets in mind around the Borderlands, like a real earthy kind of homemade sort of vibe, and with Sval being the place with the most excellent of wooden structures. So that's the Burasi. The Bura'u are our warriors now. Bura are they're a warrior culture. They do take their warring very serious. They're peaceful, but they are peaceful warriors. So they're kind of always ready to battle and hope that they never need it. This is also part of their really strong ethic of martial arts and discipline in this way. So your warriors are always going to be the strongest and the baddest sort of fucking hand-to-hand kind of fighters, and they wield that mace, that the big fuck-off end to it. Then you have the Burae have the deepest connection with with E, which is it's like the wisdom of the universe. This connection with Gamuri, the god or Mother Nature. It's that essence of God in Gyris. We know that the Gamuri sort of inexplicably forces these stones through the earth, that submerge, and that's when the Mara come and plant the Dua seed, and that's what creates our class system. There's some kind of connection that's going on. The Bura are like the chosen genus of Gamuri. There's some kind of connection there that we kind of learn a little bit more about as we go. The Burae, have the deepest connection to this stuff. So they might not be the strongest, they have that staff. They might not be the strongest, but have this really real connection. They're the only ones who can speak to the Mara being the second drop, these kind of alien looking things. And the Mara themselves have this real amazing ability to really connect to anywhere in Gyris, kind of like phone or internet. The mycelial network, when they reach into the mycelial network, they can talk to Mara from here, there, and everywhere, and kind of communicate. But the Burae are the conduit between the Bura and the Mara, and this kind of life force. So they're kind of connected in with Gamuri in a way that others aren't. They're more spiritual. They're a more spiritual class. Then finally, our Bura Muri meaning the kind of eternal cycle of life. Why they're called Bura Muri is because they're much like the hunters in indigenous tribes that we often learn about. This is true of Indigenous Australians and Native Americans and many others. There is an affinity with the the progression of civilization, I guess, to do this, was from this animism, this idea that animals were revered as spirits, as in some way connected to that, to an idea of God, or them being gods themselves. And this is very much where we sit. The Bura Muri, they have a real affinity with these animals. They can speak to the animals, or certain level of communication with the animals, and they have this understanding that you take the old, you leave the young, you let the cycle continue. And then there's this understanding between the animalia of Gyris, almost that is their cycle as well. So there's a certain time and certain age that you get to as an animal, where it's like, well, I know if I'm wandering out in the forest, it could be my day to go, but such is life. So there's this really beautiful harmonious connection between the Bura Muri and the animalia of Gyris. Now, that's all like clean cut and beautiful, and it sounds like the Bura are like this wonderfully harmonious, like the best kind of race you could ever come up with. But obviously there's kind of classes within classes. When we talk about makers, there could be builders, there could be butchers, there could be craftsmen. It's not just as simple as like, you are this. This is who you have to be. It is, the Bura, like people can be very. They can be very grey. They don't have to be sort of a black and white, this or that. And that kind of shows up a little bit in the NFTs, because you might have a bura'u, but you might have like different things on you, like a necklace or a lap that indicates that you're somewhat of a hunter. So the Bura, before they go on Diwali, they actually start to experience like an early apprenticeship of everything. They try and they learn about every part of what makes the Bura. You see these scenes early on in the script of Agi, attending the Uranau circle, trying to master the work of his mind, and then Bungairi, this is more the realm of the Bura'u, Bungairi being the martial arts, learning how to hunt, learning how to craft things. So the Bura are not so black and white. They learn, and then they are shown the way when they head out to the forest to seek it. And they don't always get it the first time. Red in the script is on his 15th Diwali. And these happen many times a year, but he's gone out quite a few times before he eventually finds his Diwali midway through film 1. Spoiler! What else? I think I answered everything. Gurun is not a tribe or a class. Gurun is a really interesting sort of. It's like the things that mums say. So. They will say, don't stay out in the, if you get lost in the forest, if you don't come back, you're going to get eaten by the Ochachuri, or you'll become a Gurun. Gurun's like, these sort of wacky hermits that no one really ever sees, but, they say live on their own out in the forest. So it's just kind of like a troll under the bridge type thing. And they've been made up to be a lot worse than they are. That you've got Gurun hair. You're a wild person. You basically look unkept. So, and then there's they're green. They're covered in moss. There's all these kind of things that get said in the script, and then just which is a look into Bura culture. So. I think that's it for class and tribe. Any questions? Shoot them over. I love talking about this stuff. So if I've missed anything, hit me up.